What's up, ladies and gents? This is KSigKid coming at you with another Destiny video. Today we're back to doing the Nightfall. This is actually the first Destiny gameplay that I've played since coming back from DestinyCon, so I definitely felt a little bit rusty. And quite honestly, the entire time I was with Devil and Yagami, they were asking and we were talking about DestinyCon and just how absolutely amazing the community was. So I was a little bit distracted and a little bit out of focus the entire time, but I would say it was for good reasons. So as far as the weapons go, you can see we have on the trusty Hawkmoon. And the Hawkmoon is going to be the star of the show this Nightfall, and that's because the first modifier that we've got for the Nightfall is small arms. And what that means is our primary weapon is going to deal out increased damage, while our special weapon and heavy weapons deal out reduced damage comparatively. So last time we ended up having the small arms modifier, I decided that I was going to try and run the Nightfall using the No Land Beyond. And yes, we did manage to get through the Nightfall. We definitely managed to get through the Nightfall. But it was a struggle. The ammo was a struggle for real. So this time I decided to use yet another extremely powerful weapon in the Hawkmoon. Because the Hawkmoon's got all those lucky bullets, and if those things proc with headshots, we're going to deal out some big time damage. I was slightly concerned that I was going to run into the same type of ammo problems. But quite honestly, after doing 3 Nightfalls, there was only really one time that I ended up pretty much running through all my ammo. I think I was down to maybe my last 7 bullets before I found a primary ammo pack on the ground. So I would say that Hawkmoon is probably a pretty safe option to go ahead and use, and it definitely is powerful. I also ended up putting on aggressive ballistics on this. That's not normally what I would put on this gun as far as the way that hand cannons are right now, especially if I was using it in PvP. But for PvE, especially with this modifier, I just wanted that extra punch from a little bit more impact. So it was aggressive ballistics for me, and that probably hurt this gun a little bit more from range, but again, it's PvE, I think you can sacrifice that and still be effective enough. Effective enough. So Hawkmoon on my primary weapon. If you don't have a Hawkmoon, if you really don't want to use a Hawkmoon, my strong recommendation would be to put on a scout rifle. A scout rifle will be really strong. A scout rifle will be able to put out a lot of damage because scout rifles are pretty powerful. I believe that Devil and Yagami were both using scout rifles at different points of this entire Nightfall going. So if it wasn't the Hawkmoon for me, it probably would have been my Suros DIS-43 with full auto. That would have worked really well. I can't really think of any other weapons that you would just absolutely want to use. I know I've seen recommendations about using the Zalo Supercell, and yes, that's something that we could touch on just a little bit right now. There are a lot of increased enemies with shields. We had Taken the entire time, and those Taken had increased shields all the time because we had Ironclad on, and that was no joke. I was actually really surprised at how many enemies actually had shields on. I really don't recall Ironclad giving all the enemies pretty much in the Nightfall shields, but I guess it did. Pretty much everywhere up until you get over to here with the Hive, where these enemies don't have any shields, which thank goodness, because wow, that would make this particular part of the Nightfall an absolute nightmare. But every Taken that you ran across had a shield. There were some that did have blue arc shields, which the Zalo Supercell could deal with, but I saw a lot of void shields, and obviously there were a number of solar shields as well. I would just lean to the Hawkmoon if I was going to put an exotic weapon on in my primary slot. Hawkmoon for sure. And you're going to use your primary weapon pretty much for everything. Everything except for the longest encounters where you need to maybe take care of some of the Shriekers, then use your sniper rifle obviously. We've also got Chafe on, which means no radar. And for some reason, Bungie really enjoys putting Chafe on in this particular strike. It's really interesting that pretty much every time we get this strike, we end up having Chafe. And what that means is try to get up in the air as much as you possibly can, because with Chafe on, you're never going to really know whenever you're being swarmed by thralls and exploding thralls, and chances are that's going to be happening more often than not. Finally, the last modifier that we have is exposure. And this one's pretty interesting because I know a lot of people absolutely hate exposure. And they say that exposure is just one of those modifiers that absolutely wrecks them and just makes the Nightfall that much more difficult. I never personally feel that way. I never personally feel that exposure is something that really is a detriment to me whenever I'm going into the Nightfall. In fact, sometimes I enjoy it because I'm that much more beefy whenever I'm running around, and I can take that many more shots. And yes, it says that your shields do not regenerate with exposure, but they actually do. it's just really, really, really slow. So you have to not be hit for a long time in order to actually see your shields actually go up. But I don't really feel that exposure is that much of a problem. You can get your health back in some ways. You can also strategically die. If you die, then you get revived by your teammate, and boom, you've suddenly got all those shields and all that extra defensibility just from dying once. A sacrificial death, we'll say. Whenever you take down Alak-Hul, you get the chance of getting 2 strike-specific drops. You could get the helmet or the fusion rifle. So the Darkblade helmet, pretty much the one that he's wearing that we already knocked off. You can see his little hive brain right now. Or the fusion rifle, that is a pretty high impact fusion rifle. I can tell you right now that after all 3 of my Nightfalls, I did not get any of the strike-specific loot, so very, very sad. You can also use 3 of coins. I did not get any exotic Ingrams to drop either, so I didn't have really any luck. I had a lot of luck the last few Nightfalls though, so we're going to hope for our endgame rewards to be pretty good. But as far as the fusion rifle and the helmet, I think Devil ended up getting a fusion rifle, and Yagami ended up getting a helmet in our runs. So that's about where that was at. Alak-Hul was just a little bit stingy, it feels like, this week. He really didn't want to drop it, but here we are, using the arc blade, blade dancing down, slicing him, and there go all my blue Ingrams. Nothing purple, nothing gold, but he's down and dead, and what that means is that we have successfully completed a Nightfall, and the only thing left is to go see what our endgame rewards are. Obviously, we didn't get any of those 335 loot strike specific drops, but we'll hopefully get something good from the end screen. Honestly, since it was the bug Nightfall strike of the flares, which was 5 weeks ago, I actually looked that up. My Nightfall drops have been really, really solid. That bugged flare Nightfall was pretty much the last broken and really, really bad Nightfall that we ended up having as far as the loot goes. Everything else for the last 5 weeks has been good, so hopefully we end up keeping that streak alive, and going in with our hunter, we end up going ahead to our reward screen and crossing our fingers that we get something good. Devil, Yagami, KSigKid, what'd you get? Alright, this isn't good. This isn't good. This is probably our worst start to a Nightfall in quite some time. A 330 helmet, 330 legs, and 17 strange coins. Moving on to our Titan, we can only go up from there, right? So here we go, waiting for our rewards to pop in, and boom, there we go. 333 Truth for Yagami, a 335 Armentarium for me, and Devil, who's been on an exotic tear, only gets gloves, and a strange coin. And finally, for our Warlock, closing out the Nightfall, our last one of the week, we end up getting, well, Devil gets his exotic, there it is, Peregrine Greaves, Yagami gets 3 of coins, and I get a ghost shell. I haven't got a ghost shell in 5 weeks. I haven't seen a ghost shell drop in 5 weeks. But there it is, alive and kicking. Alive and kicking that ghost shell. Anyway, guys and gals, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out these awesome videos. Good luck with your raids, your drops, your Nightfall, and I'll see you around. In Destiny, I ain't afraid of no ghost.